Yousof and his daughters. Under the lush green hills of Moeli lived Yousof and his 2 daughters. He had lost his wife quite early and brought up the girls all by himself. Naturally, he was very fond of them both and wished that they will find the best suitors to marry. Awa, the eldest daughter, was a little chubby, had a beautiful face, dark, smooth, shiny skin, round lips like a cherub, and a generous mop of dense hair, and walked slowly, carrying her weight like a princess. Tunya was just the opposite of Awa. She had an elongated face, almond-shaped eyes, lighter skin, of caramel tone, long wavy hair, and kept to herself most times. Yet the sisters were close and were very fond of each other. Both girls also had different skills. While Awa could cook anything under the sky and turn it into the most delectable dish, Tunya preferred lighter tasks like sewing and embroidery along with reading. Their father, Yousof, often competed with the crows to cry out a daily rant, or speaking of how charming and beautiful his daughters were, to ensure that suitors from all corners flocked to his door asking for his daughters' hands in marriage. Highly educated, rich men from the metropole, doctors and engineers, were expected to be queuing to seek Tunya's and Awa's hands. Locally, everybody was so put off upon hearing Yusuf's calls that nobody came forward to ask for either of the daughters' hands in marriage. Meanwhile, Awa managed the kitchen and made delicious beef stews, pawpaw relish, coconut pastries, pilau rice and fish pickle, which she sent around to people she knew to taste. Tunya embroidered orchids, hibiscus and roses onto linen that she bought from the Indian shop and gifted them to her aunties. However, no one recommended the girls to any suitor, as they would do for the other girls. Not even Jamil, the twice-widowed jeweler, with only 2 teeth left, tickled the conversation to remarry either of Yusuf's beauties. The following month, after Ramadan was over, Yousof organized a big feast on the beach and invited everyone in the community to join them. Awa cooked fish and plantain in coconut milk, braised over coals, mataba of beef with sweet potatoes, tomato rogai, deep-fried breadfruit dumplings, makatra, futra, and a very spicy chili sauce. The most expensive drinks were served along with vanilla cream pastries, donuts and fresh fruits. The clamor of the feast attracted a young man who came down from the neighboring island in search of opportunities. His name was Kalipa. He moved closer to the feast and eventually was invited in. While choosing some food from the buffet, he heard a melodious voice behind him.
"You're right to have chosen the breadfruit dumplings. Try them with some hugai and chili sauce."
It was Tunya who was trying hard to be sociable. When Kalipa had a bite of the dumplings with the accompaniments, as suggested by the young girl, an explosion of flavors sent him into rapture.
"I can't believe it. This is incredibly delicious. I have never eaten anything so tasty. You really do cook very well."
"Oh, unfortunately I'm not blessed with such skills. The credit goes to my sister Awa, who is a wonderful cook. She has magic in her hands,"
Tunya uttered coyly in her honey-laced voice.
"Your husband, or your sister's husband, must be a very lucky man."
He immediately set to work to test the waters.
"Pardon me, but we are both not yet married. Our father is still selecting the right suitors for us. Any potential suitor will have to be very rich, of high status, religious, well-educated, and from a very good family."
Hearing this, the lazy man gulped in, thinking he had very little chance to be selected as a potential husband. However, Kalipa had fallen in love on the spot, so he made up his mind that he would marry both sisters at the same time. A golden opportunity was shining for him. The next Friday, after prayers at the mosque, Yousof, only listening with one ear to the preaching from the Imam, turned towards his neighbor on the prayer mat and said,
Young man, you seem to be new in the mosque. I've not seen you here before.
The man was impeccably dressed in a long white cotton tunic, embroidered with golden threads, had a velvet cap, equally finely embroidered, held crystal prayer beads and smelled of attar. He had good features, was tall, with soft dark skin and the apparent dark mark of a pious man on his forehead.
Greetings to you. May Allah be with you, my friend. I am indeed new to the place.
The two men started chatting and left the mosque together. All the words of the stranger were punctuated by some quotes from the Quran, and Yousof was more and more impressed, barely able to put in a word, so just nodded the elaborate verses that were being exposed to his very attentive ears. Soon they reached Yusuf's house, and it was quite natural that the stranger was invited to join the family for some refreshments and lunch. Awa greeted her father and the visitor. Her voluptuousness captured the sight of the man, while she served them both with freshly made sambusas and sharbat. Her undulating body and the delicious snacks made a huge impact upon the man, who was pleased to finally see the woman who had cooked the marvelous food at the buffet. You guessed right. The man was in fact Kalipa. After meeting Tunya that evening and deciding to getting married to the two sisters, he set out his plan to capture the admiration of Yousof. He had already started his makeover and turned himself into a seemingly pious scholar, polishing his looks and garb, and it worked.
Awa, please call your sister to greet our very esteemed guest, Mr. Kalapa Asamanu.
Yes, father, I will call her. When Tunya pulled open the curtain separating the living room from the dining room, she froze in surprise. She immediately recognized the stranger from the feast.
Tunya, please meet Mr. Kalapa. He is a scholar from Paris. He has just returned from France and is trying to spread his knowledge and to teach young people about the Holy Scriptures.
Tuna greeted Kalipa and retreated to the kitchen with her sister.
I know him. What is he doing here? He came to the feast the other day, but was dressed differently.
Tunya, you surely have made a mistake. There were a lot of people there on that day. Father said he's a scholar from Paris.
Oh, Paris. How I wished I could go there. So beautiful and such a different lifestyle. So much to see and all the beautiful dresses on show. Awa, I'm sure it's him. I would also love to go to Paris and get away from this small island. But I feel something is not right about him. You had better be on your guard too.
Awa made some crab soup, lentils, cakes, chayote salad and with steamed rice. For dessert, bananas came forth fried in a batter with sesame seeds and honey. After the meal, Yousof broke into what was burning on his lips.
So, Mr. Kalapa. Oh, please call me Kalapa. I am young enough to be your son, and you are my respected elder. So, Kalapa, who else do you have in your family? Your wife? No, sir. I am on my own here, not yet married. Studies and social service to the community have not left me enough time to find a suitable wife. I have come back to the country as this is where my dear departed parents lived. If Allah is willing, maybe I can find a suitable girl to marry here and even take her to Paris with me.
It was exactly what each girl on the island was thinking in their heart when they saw a suitor. Yousof set the ball rolling and asked the question.
I have two beautiful, charming, and homely daughters. Maybe Allah has put you in my way for a reason. Do you mean... I wouldn't dare to believe my luck, dear sir. If one of my daughters is willing, I am ready to offer her hand in marriage. Of course, if you are agreeable. So, what do you say?
Kalipa thought quickly.
Actually, if it is all right with you and with them, I would wish to marry them both. Such gems are so hard to find, and as per the Prophet's tenets, it is acceptable to have two wives. And as they are sisters, they will support each other when they are in Paris. Really? Both of them? That's indeed a surprising offer. Of course, I will need to discuss it with them both.
Both Tunya and Awa already saw themselves in Paris and welcomed the idea of being together, even if it meant marrying the same man. So the wedding was fixed, and within a week the sisters were married off to the unknown Kalipa. Nobody on this island knew him at all. Yousof gave each of his daughters some land, gold jewelry, part of his savings, as well as his 2 shops and the bakery. A month passed. Tunya and Awa, sharing one husband, started to ask some questions about his behavior. Why did Kalipa never go to the shops, nor to the bakery to work, or even show any interest at all? He also never mentioned going to Paris. Each of the wives tried several times to ask about his travel plans, but the subject was always changed, and they were sweet-talked by the cunning Kalipa. One day, Tunya confided in Awa that Kalipa had nightmares and mutters weird names in his sleep. The women started to wonder whether this scholar of a husband is really who he pretends to be. They never see him reading, but sitting for long hours on the veranda, summoning his wives to bring him regular teas and snacks. They were realizing this man was considerably lazy.
Kalipa, dear husband, how come you never do anything?
Me? Not do anything? Who do you think is praying for the health and well-being of you two, not to mention of your dear father? I have to pray quietly for a very long time, and as you know, some surahs in the Quran can be very long to recite.
Why is it so quiet in your room?
Feeling trapped, Kalipa, shrewd as he was, told his wives that he had promised to a jinn that he would never make any utterance that can be heard, so that his prayers would be answered. Upon hearing that he had a jinn in his favor guiding him, the 2 women stopped asking him any questions. They knew jinns were powerful. One day, their father Yousof visited them. Awa made some delectable dishes for lunch, and they all sat down to eat. Yousof noticed that his daughters did not seem in their regular selves, as back home. He waited for the meal to be over, and under the pretext to help them with the dishes in the kitchen, he asked Tunya.
Tell me, Tunya, is everything all right? Are you both happy?
Surprised by such a question, Awa pranced forward and hesitantly asked her father to lower his voice. Father, I don't think our husband is the man he pretended to be. He is always sitting and never helps around the house. When we ask him to check the shops and help a bit, he says he has to pray. He never speaks about going to Paris either. I believe he is in fact hiding his true self to us. I have my doubts upon what sort of man we have married. We got blinded by our shallow ambitions to go to Paris. Tunya confided in her father and her sister and tells them of her recently confirmed pregnancy. She had not told Kalipa as yet. Her father advised her not to tell him, promising to find a solution as to unmasking Kalipa's true identity. Upon leaving, Yousof asked his son-in-law to send his 2 wives to stay for a while with him. He was missing them a lot, and they could help him to tidy the house a bit, which had been neglected of late. The women left a few days later. Kalipa wasn't happy, but he had to abide, not to trigger any suspicions from the old man. What Yousof did when his daughters reached his place was a bit of a shock to them. After a refreshing juice and some boiled breadfruit, he summoned both of them. The 2 women were really puzzled as to what their father was going to tell them.
My dear daughters, by Allah's mercy, you are both married now, and you have good standing in society. However, I feel very guilty to have pushed you to take on a husband who doesn't really deserve you. So, I have decided that you can leave him. Come back and stay here. You both have skills, money, and each a business that you can run. Make your life better. You don't need to stay with such a lazy man who married you out of greed and lust.
But father, I am expecting his child. How can you say that? People will point fingers at us. As you know, our society is not very forgiving. How will I show my face to the world?
Who will dare to point a finger at you? I am still alive. I am your father, and I shall always protect you. This man is living off you as a parasite. I will go to your Aunt Khadija tomorrow, and we will ask her to find a way to get this rascal out of your lives.
The 2 women started to cry. They remained silent for a long time, each pondering their thoughts for right and wrong. When the rooster crowed in the morning, Yousof came to wake his daughters.
It's a lovely morning. Get up, do your ablutions, and say your prayers. We then shall have an early breakfast and set off to Khadija's place together.
Awa made some flat bread, coffee, and cut some fresh fruits, while Tunya tidied the house quickly. A taxi came to pick them up, and they made their way to Aunt Khadija. Tunya was holding Awa's hands tightly. She was very nervous and very confused. Aunt Khadija's house was a long way from the edge of the village. The landscape turned very leafy and rocky. The sea cliffs were close. One could see the sea turn circling over, spotting some nearby moving shoal of sardines. After a bumpy road which seemed to never end, the car stopped in a cloud of dust. The father and daughters got down and quickened their step. The driver hailed to Yousof and waved to them. Yousof advanced, followed by Awa and Tunya, who by now questioned, why on earth have they arrived and what were they doing here? Some cockerels came out from a bush, stood and started to crow. A dog came running, barking loudly. Birds flew out from their bushes to a nearby breadfruit tree. Some nearby goats continued grazing without any attention to the visitors. A little boy with a wild bob of hair and oversized flip-flops came towards them from nowhere. Yousof asked for Aunt Khadija.
Abba Khadija will be here quite soon. Just follow me.
They followed the boy to a small breeze-block house which had never been painted. A canopy of ilang-ilang blocked the view to the entrance door. The trio followed the boy and came into a small, shady but cool room. The floor was polished red and shining like a mirror. Pots of ferns and geraniums were scattered around the room. There was a set of cane-sitting chairs and a small round table. An old TV set stood in a corner, burdened with a lace cover. A multicolored shell curtain led to another room, which they had no view. Suddenly, with a rattle, the curtains parted and appeared a rather aged lady dressed in a shiromani and a bright-colored shawl partially covering her head. Her face was smeared with sandalwood paste. "What brings you here, Yousof? It's been a long time since we last met. Your daughters have indeed grown up. Beautiful they are too, just like their mother."
Khadija Abba, here are Tunia and Awa. Allah is merciful. They are very good girls, well versed in housework, skilled in cooking and embroidery, educated and very obedient too.
"Surely they will have no problem finding a good suitor. Are you sure you're not here because there is a problem? As far as I can see, one is pregnant." Dunya was taken aback by her sudden statement. How did she know? Her belly was not even showing. This Khadija Abba must be a walimu, a healer. "Don't look surprised, my girl. I can be direct with your father. He's like my brother. His wife, your mother, was very close to me."
"But how did you know?"
whispered Tunya. "I have a jinn with me. No, in fact, 4 of them. But one stays with me all the time, while the others only visit me from time to time. I can see through any person clearly," said Abba Khadija, looking intensely at Tunya.
That's exactly why we are here, Khadija Abba. My daughters recently got married to a man whom I chose myself, but he insisted on marrying them both. He seemed educated and an Islamic scholar, teaching the Quran, just returned from Paris and looking for a wife. I met him at the mosque. However, since the girls got married, he seems to like his deck chair more than anything else. He never helps in any chores. He expects his snacks to be put in front of him in a flash whenever he orders them. You know why Tunia is such a fine cook? She spoils him, I can tell you. It so happens that since their marriage, Mr. has never lifted a finger, pretending to pray for everyone under the spell of his jinn, or so he says. I have given my daughters everything I had. Bakery, shops, land, even money. He never goes to check the shops, never drops by the bakery to help, never steps out in the sun to tend the land. Nothing. I believe he's a gold digger and a pretty lazy man too. My daughters are not happy at all, yet they wouldn't tell me anything. I had to visit them to see what exactly was going on.
What have you done? Yousof, times are bad nowadays. You can't trust anyone. Surely your daughters don't deserve such a man. What are you going to do? Such a man can bleed them from their wealth and run away and then marry someone else.
Exactly. You spoke what is in my heart. And in fact, that's why we are here. Please help us get rid of this parasite. Now he's even made my Tunia pregnant. Poor child.
This is indeed a very delicate situation. I can help you, that's all right. But what do your daughters want? It's their husband after all. Khadija Abba, spoke Awa. We both got tempted and carried away with the prospect of being taken to Paris. After marriage, Paris was never spoken about again. We listened to father and married him. We now both feel he is not an honest man. He says he has no family or relatives and comes from the neighboring island. I think he might even be a convict. We don't like him anymore. In fact, we despise him and stay away from him as much as we can. Rome was not built in a day, Abba Khadija. It will not be easy to get rid of him. However, I shall try my best. What did he say? He has his own jinn? Well, the only way is to test him. Jinn will find about another jinn. To which she threw a throaty laugh. This relaxed the atmosphere a little bit. Khadija talked to the girls about their mother, how they were close, almost like sisters. They grew up together as neighbors and parted when each took a different path in life through marriage. The little boy who announced that lunch was ready was an orphan living with and being looked after by Abba Khadija.
You should not have taken all this trouble, Abba Khadija. We'd better leave quite soon,
said Yousof, shifting on his seat. Of course not. You're my guest, and I'm seeing the daughters of my dear friend after a very long time. It is only a simple meal I can offer you, but I hope you can enjoy it.
It is an honor to share a meal with you,
said both Awa and Tunya in unison.
I could have help, Abba, offered Tunya.
No, my girl, there is Abisi, my niece, who lives with us. She cooks well and looks after the house. I am blessed to have her with us. Poor girl, she was thrown out by her in-laws because she did not bring much wealth from her parents. She lives with us now, and she's content and has a more peaceful life than at her in-laws. I tell you, Yousof, when you have daughters, you know that Allah has blessed us, but they also suffer a lot by the hands of cruel people. Only Allah knows why He is making such crooked man these days. But don't worry, all will be well. Come on, girls, let's eat now. You must be hungry. Abisi welcomed them in the humble dining room, which was spotless, with a windowsill full of plants and colorful flowers. A wonderful aroma of food was floating in the room and was so tempting. They all sat down and were immediately served with chicken and corn soup, followed by manioc with dried fish rogai and aubergine cooked in coconut milk. Pineapple and mangoes, bursting in sweetness, were refreshing desserts which Tunya slurped with great pleasure. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee tickled their nostrils pleasantly and was served in a small brightly colored enamel mugs. Yousof, drawing a sigh of satiation, said,
This was indeed no simple meal, Abba. It was so delicious, and we all loved it. Thank you, Abisi, to have worked so hard. May Allah bless you, child. Abba Khadija, I cannot thank you enough for your warm hospitality.
It is my pleasure, Yousof. Alhamdulillah, Allah looks after us. Let us talk about this miscreant son-in-law now. Can we move to the small room, please? The girls followed their father after helping Abisi clear the table and do the dishes. When they joined Abba, she had a candle lit in front of her, some flowers, a plate with some cowrie shells, attar, some powder of some form, a book, and a rosary of prayer beads. She had her hair covered by her shawl, and the girls followed suit too. Yousof had his prayer cap on. Khadija started mumbling some prayers, sprinkled some water, touched some attar from the fial to her forearm, and closed her eyes. A sudden breeze entered the room from nowhere, and Tunya and Awa got goosebumps. Yousof was calm and had his head bent, looking down.
Why did you call me Abba?
Spoke Abba in a male stentorian voice. The trio was stunned and looked at her with saucer-shaped eyes. Abba followed in her usual voice. Jinn, I need your help. There is a man who is not good and pretends that he has a jinn who is guiding him.
A jinn never guides a bad man. What do you want from me?
Abba spoke again in a male voice. I want you to go and check this man and unmask his so-called jinn. He should be shown to the light and to pack his bag, leave and never return. He is tormenting these poor women.
You know I cannot do this, as this man is married to the woman with child.
That's why you have to do it. Otherwise, the child born will follow Shaitan in his father's steps. Do you want that? The mother is a pious, honest follower of Allah. She has the right to bring her child into this world with Allah's blessings.
Shaitan!
Bellowed the male voice out of Abba again.
He has no right to be here. I am Jinn. How dare he come here? I will find him out and punish him. I will pull out the evil eyes surrounding you.
Abba came back to her normal voice and spoke softly after muttering some prayers and sprinkling some flowers and water. She lit an incense stick, swirled it over the book and stuck it into a shell. Here is what you will do, girls. You shall wash your face every morning with this water, in which you will soak these flowers. For each of these meals, sprinkle this powder onto your husband's food. Recite this surah daily by performing the wazifa to remove shaitan. Read your namaz well and give some alms to the poor. Do this for a month without fail. Your husband will slowly forget you both. He will either become irritable or cry. Don't pay attention. It is the prayers and the jinn working to get rid of him. You should not tell anybody about this at all. Keep it all in utmost secrecy. If you have your menstruation hour, please don't do any of this. Your sister can do it on your behalf. Do not eat any prickly fruits or vegetables. Do not drink milk nor eat honey. Awa, always more practical, pulled out a notebook from her bag and started noting down the instructions. Make coffee for him and pilau rice with cardamom. When you put the rose water in, read the dua I told you about. Keep the house clean at all times and don't allow anyone to come in. The jinn doesn't like anywhere or anyone to be dirty. He cannot do his work and he will be very angry. When they left Abba Khatija and came out, they felt as if they had come out from a daze. The glare outside was strong and the humidity sticky. They went in the taxi which has been waiting outside. The driver came after a short while. He had gone to his relative's place nearby. They made their way back home, all quiet and pensive. The week which followed saw a lot of gradual change in Kalipa. The two young women did exactly as Abba had instructed. Luckily, no unexpected guests came to the door, and Kalipa was fed pilau rice and tasty sambusal, which were his favorite.
Tunia, why are you making sambusas every day? Is there anything to celebrate?
No, but I thought you liked them. We received a fresh load of new potatoes from our plantation, so I thought I would make good use of them.
Whatever you make is always, always so good. How is your father, by the way?
He is well by Allah's grace, but we really needed to visit him. The laundry to do, kitchen to tidy, courtyard to sweep, floors to be polished, all required some work. He was much better after eating some real home-cooked food. He even regained his smile. This made us happy when we left.
Good. All right, just get to your chores then, and I will not disturb you.
The dismissive signal came right on time, as Tunya was getting fed up of acting in good mood with the lazy Kalipa. The days went by, and they were woken up one night by a howling Kalipa in bed. Rushing to see him, both sisters discovered that he was lying on the floor, in a frenzy, eyes wide open and convulsing, panting like a dog. Hawa, quick on her feet, took him by the arm and gave him a good shake. "Wake up, wake up!"
What? Where am I? That dog was chasing me to the cliffs. I was being forced to throw myself into the sea. Help me, please, save me.
Kalipa was in a state that they had never seen before. They were frightened, but soon calmed down, remembering Abba Khadija's words. Tunya thought the dua coupled with the jinn's work were really working. The next morning, Kalipa woke early. Probably he was turning into an insomniac. He asked Awa to get a shirt ready for him, as he will go to the bakery.
To the bakery?
Tunya could not believe the word when her sister came to report about Kalipa's turn of action. "Are you sure you want to go to the bakery? Because I'm going there too. You don't need to come if you have to pray today," Awa told her husband. He insisted he would go. Tunya wasn't feeling too well. Her pregnancy was giving her an upset stomach. She could barely get up from the stool while grating some coconut. Awa offered to help, but she told her she would be fine. Later in the morning, Tunya was out hanging clothes on the line. She noticed a big, beautiful butterfly. It was almost the size of a moth, but was colorful and moved quickly, hovering over the flowers and resting every now and then on the frangipani tree nearby. It soon started following her and went into the house with her. By then, she left what she had in her hand and tried chasing it outside. It flew out quickly from the window and stayed resting on the hibiscus bush outside the kitchen. It is believed that jinns can take the form of any animal and can spy upon people. They frequently take butterflies or dogs as disguise. This day, the jinn was surely in the house, trying to catch sight of Kalipa. The latter left with Awa for the bakery. The morning rush on the main street where the bakery was normally knows a quiet time around 10 o'clock. That day, the bakery remained buzzing with customers. Awa was busy serving as well as checking the kitchen at the back. Hot buns, crispy baguettes, sweet donuts, crème éclair, coconut-laden vanilla cakes, shortbread biscuits, chocolate gâteaux were on display and were quickly disappearing from the glass cabinets. Most of the customers were women whom Awa knew, and they all noticed the presence of Kalipa standing, looking awkward. He had no clue what to do, nor how to help Awa. He moved towards the till, but Awa was quick to move in, and he was left standing in the way. "So, helping today?" said a lady by the name of Fazia, who was a bit of a gossip monger, and whom Awa avoided at all cost. However, she was a regular at the bakery.
Yes, I am indeed.
Kalipa replied lamely. As Awa was in the kitchen checking on the new batches of pastries to be brought in, she heard Kalipa's voice saying something inaudible. Pressed by the urgency to save face in front of so many people, lest he said something he should not, Awa rushed to the till, and what she saw caused her to freeze. Kalipa was circled by all the women and was crying.
I'm a very, very dishonest man. I duped these two hard-working sisters so that I could live without having to work, with enough wealth to make my own life comfortable. I need now to throw myself off a cliff. I don't deserve them. Please, Allah, forgive me.
Sobbed Kalipa, even louder. Some women gave Awa a sorry and forlorn look. Awa lost her countenance and broke into a sweat. "Are you not a scholar from Paris?" asked one customer who advised anyone who can make it to the Métropole. There are many like her hiding behind their Shiromani.
Me, a scholar? Paris? I've only taken a boat to cross from the small island to here. I've never been anywhere else in my life. All I know of the Quran is what I learned from the Quranic school. I've only done petty jobs in my life and just tried to live off other people.
Ah! A clamour rose from the women, who started murmuring among themselves. During all this time, Awa seemed transfixed. She could not move, nor utter a word. She needed to stop Kalipa, but the latter could not stop his moaning. What on earth was going on with him? Was the jinn and the dua forcing his mask to fall off and reveal himself as truly as he was in full view of the public? Awa suddenly moved from the counter and fended her way through the tight circle. She pulled Kalipa from the arm and took him out of the bakery. "Go home now!" Kalipa, like a battered dog with his tail between his legs, turned his back and left. Awa resumed her duty, but nobody would move to the till anymore. They were all chatting and didn't bother to order anything. "So, who is next?"
Awa, my girl, what happened to your husband? Is it true that what he was saying? This is terrible. You should report it to the Qadi. He will know how to advise you.
Awa, gulping her tears while trying to keep her calm, said, "Sadly, I think this is all true, as you have seen." Someone came forward to give her a hug. She opened the flap of the counter's entrance to let her in and accepted the comfort. When Awa got back in the afternoon, she found Tunya sat on the veranda in Kalipa's usual deck chair. He could not be seen anywhere when she entered the house. "Where is he?" Tunya gave her a long look, looking tired, and broke in faint smile.
He packed his bag and left. He asked me to forgive him. Do you think this is what Abba Khadija said the jinn would do?
Awa could not believe her ears, but every day while doing the dua and washing their faces, putting the powder and the rose water in his food, skeptic about whether this whole thing would work, she only hoped this would happen. Kalipa was gone, never to appear again. Nobody heard about him, neither did anyone bother to ask following the episode at the bakery. It sealed in many tongues which normally would wag. The two sisters carried on with their lives. Their father came to live with them, renting his own house. Months later, a chubby baby girl was born, who was loved by both sisters, and Yousof knew a great joy in enjoying the company of his granddaughter. He again threw a big feast and fed half of the village. The following year, both sisters got offers of marriage, but preferred to be on their own. Life could not have been more peaceful for them. Awa's daughter grew into a beautiful young girl and looked after her mum and auntie with love and care. The women kept their dignity and self-pride.